A lot of people are scared to make trades in fantasy football. It's for good reason, bro. I've made so many trades in the past that have just bit me in the ass. I've gotten a guy, looked like he had upside, ends up being an absolute fart. But we got to move on, bro. We got to make trades sometimes. Sometimes your team is absolute dog shit. You're 0-5, you're 1-4. You have to start making moves now because you can make a run for the playoffs. I mean, championship might be a little bit of a stretch, but I've seen it, bro. I've seen it done. So make some moves now, especially if you're in the gutters. And we're going to start this video with some of my favorite trade targets. It's 5 guys. It's going to be 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers that you should get now before they pop off moving forward without wasting any more time. Let's get into these players, man. But first, we got some homework, bro. I do this in a lot of my videos. It's just some of the basic things you need to do that I don't really need to mention. We're not going to go through all these players, but it's the high end people, right? It's the guys that were drafted like the first 3 rounds. So for running backs, I just listed a few: Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, DeVon Achane, Jonathan Taylor, and Alvin Kamara. Very self explanatory, right? Guys that haven't been producing or had down weeks or are injured. And, I think they're going to turn it around. These are very talented players on very good offenses. We don't need to go into depth of those, but those are trade targets, right? The only problem with them, the reason I don't want to go into them or go deep into them is because they're probably still very expensive, right? Like, I don't know if people are going to be selling Kamara or Breece Hall or Bijan, especially because they know that big weeks might be ahead. But you never know. There might be an unsuspecting player in your fantasy league. Target dudes who like owe you money in real life. Like maybe they're about to have a baby or they're going through an absolutely brutal divorce. The wife's taking the house from them, taking the kids. That's the dude you want to target, bro. Send some trades at that guy, man. You got to be you got to be bloodthirsty, man. Anyone who drafted Rashad White, that's also another huge trade target, bro. That's somebody who doesn't know fantasy football. They don't know real football. They probably don't know their real name. Target dudes who drafted Rashad White. Next category is wide receivers, man. High end wide receivers. I don't need to go into them. It's Tyreek Hill, it's CeeDee Lamb, Marvin Harrison. Those are 3 dudes who haven't really been performing up to par, but we know what they're capable of. We know what they can do in fantasy football. So, getting into the real players, man, I'm going to switch the screen over now. And the first guy on my list is Jakobi Meyers. Jakobi Meyers is a very simple thesis as to why he's buy low, but a couple things kind of need to go his way. A couple things need to go right for him, basically. So ever since Devontae Adams, after week 2, had a spontaneous injury and requested a trade right away, he's been pretty much a lock for like 9+ targets. He had 9, 10, and 9. Unfortunately, he didn't really do much with them. In week 3, he had a nice game against Carolina, got into the end zone, but the past couple weeks hasn't really done too much. But there's some optimism. So the first thing is that Aiden O'Connell and him have really good chemistry. They played really well together last year. Their playoff schedule is really good. They got Atlanta, Jacksonville, New Orleans. His value is absolutely in the gutters right now. Like people don't feel confident starting Jakobi Meyers right now. And when I said earlier that some things need to go his way, one of which is that if Adams does stay with the Raiders, it doesn't mean Myers is going to be useless. It just means his ceiling is a little bit capped because obviously if Adams stays, he's an absolute target hog. He's a target magnet. So that's the one problem, right? Because Adams also has a lot of chemistry with AOC. And I said in one of my previous videos, bro, earlier this week that I think Devonta Adams' injury is a fucking fluke. He had a conversation with Antonio Pierce, and supposedly it was a good conversation. They had a lot of productivity that came out of it, and he's like, maybe I will stick around. Another report came out today that it could be he could be wanting to stay and not get traded potentially because of his chemistry with Aiden O'Connell. So it's looking like Adams went full baby mode to get his way, but I pulled up a couple trades that we can look at together. It's from fantasycalc.com. You guys can go check it out. You just input a player and it shows you all the recent trades. These are real life, real league trades. And I just essentially tallied or marked which ones that I actually like and the potential trades that you can probably make. From the top, we got Jakobi Meyers and Tank Bigsby for Xavier Worthy and Quentin. I like this one because I think Xavier Worthy is going to be too boomer bust for my taste. If you can move off a player like that and get a dude like Tank Bigsby in return, who's got a lot of upside, and I think Quentin's somebody you're not really confident starting. I'd put Quentin and Xavier Worthy kind of in that same category of like a little too boom bust for my taste. Next one, Jakobi Meyers and Swift for Garrett Wilson. For me, even though this trade says that the Garrett Wilson side wins by a landslide, I think Swift and Myers together are like 2 assets that you can start rest of season, while Garrett Wilson, like he can have some really down weeks with this Jets offense. Sometimes they look really decrepit, unable to move the ball. But that one's close, right? Like if you're a Garrett Wilson fan, you might probably think I'm stupid for even saying that. Keon Coleman and Myers for Jameson Williams. You get two, as I mentioned, two guys. It all depends on how you view Jakobi Meyers moving forward, and if Adams does get traded, this could look really bad in the future. Mix in Godwin, Myers for Diggs and Montgomery. This one's interesting because I feel like you're upgrading at every position. I mean, Godwin clears Diggs in my opinion. Mixon and David Montgomery might be kind of a wash, but you're getting Myers as like a throw in. So yeah, we don't need to go too deep into these. Myers for Worthy and Mostert. That one I probably lean Worthy and Mostert. All these down here I lean the non Myers side. I mean Jameson Williams. This one's just Myers for Brian Thomas straight up. I mean this guy got absolutely fleeced, dude. This must be a bot. But next player on my list is going to be Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren's a rough one, bro. I don't know if we should be buying Jaylen Warren, to be honest. Like I was kind of debating whether I should include him on this video, but essentially the thesis here is Najee. Dude, like 2 words I put: Najee Harris. A third word: sucks. Fourth word: dick. Najee Harris is ass, dude. He cannot do anything right. It seems he is plodding out there. He's slow. Like his vision doesn't look like how it used to be. What a downfall from that rookie season that he had, right? He was such I mean, he was a volume beast, but he was good, dude. I don't know what happened to him, but basically the Steelers want to run the ball. Harris is not getting it done. Warren has a real chance to take over the backfield. I really do think that when he returns, they're searching, bro. They're looking for somebody that can take this backfield. And I think it'll be Jaylen Warren. Pittsburgh has a 52.23% run rate in the NFL. That's fourth in the NFL. 29th in yards per attempt. So what that tells me is that they want to run the ball, but they currently can't run the ball very well. So a change is needed. Looking at some trades here, we'll kind of fly through these. Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Warren for Garrett Wilson and Tank Bigsby. This really depends if you're 4-1 or 5-0. This one makes sense because you kind of have to sit on Tyreek Hill, who isn't really doing too much for us right now. But Warren for Lad McConkey. This is just if you need a running back or a wide receiver. To me, they're kind of valued similarly. Warren for Baker in a 1 QB league. I'll take Warren, assuming you have like a decent backup. Lamar Jackson and Warren. Give me the Lamar Jackson side, even though this side does have Jordan Mason. He did get injured. Yeah, man. Tyreek Hill and Warren for Najee and Jerome Ford. I like the Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Warren side. Obviously, I think Najee Harris might be unusable once Warren returns. And then you're giving up Jerome Ford, who's also going to be unusable. I mean, this one also Taco League. Warren for Ty Chandler. Give me Warren. Warren has like rest of season value, while Ty Chandler has like acute value for like the next couple of weeks. Warren for Sutton and Justice Hill. Easy Warren. Cortland Sutton's almost unusable at this point. Jaylen Warren and Addison for Roma Dunze and Jerome Ford. Same kind of concept as the Ty Chandler. I was about to say dichotomy. That would have been cringe as fuck. Same thing as Ty Chandler, where Jerome Ford and Warren acute value, but once Chubb returns, Jerome Ford is kind of useless. And then Jordan Addison over Roma Dunze. Personally, I'll take Jordan Addison. It's not an easy dub, but just Roma Dunze. You never know when he's going to pop off, bro. There's a lot of mouths to feed there. And then Warren for Cousins, easy. Next player on my list is Rico Dowdle. I made another dedicated video about Rico Dowdle. You guys can head over to my channel and check it out. But Rico Dowdle's been ascending, bro. He has taken over this backfield. Ezekiel Elliott is he's cooked, bro. He is cooked. There's not much else to say about Ezekiel Elliott. As I said in one of my other videos, he looks like that old head uncle that you have at the barbecue who still thinks he's got it, dude. He's like, yeah, that's Ezekiel. I don't want to go deeper into that. He's taken over the Dallas RB1 spot. He's produced and looked pretty good. Last week, he played against Pittsburgh, where everyone was like, sit this man, do not play Rico Dowdle. Ended up producing, bro. Like 20 carries, 87 yards, not bad. And then gets in the end zone on that, back of the end zone. Or he runs a nice route, breaks his man. Dak rolls out of the pocket, finds him on like the far right of the end zone. Nice play. Almost fumbled the game away. That could have been bad. But he doesn't. They get the ball. Dak throws the game winner. This is the rest of season rankings. As you can see, he did move up 17 spots recently. He has a decent matchup. This here's like strength of schedule for the regular season, 3 out of 5 stars, and then strength of schedule for playoffs. Actually, really good, dude. 4 out of 5 stars. So I like that for Rico moving forward. This is a chart that I found on Twitter, which is essentially just yards after contact per attempt, and then yards before contact. You can, extrapolate what you want from that. In my opinion, yards before contact is just a nice metric to see how good is the offensive line, and then potentially also like whether the running back knows which hole to hit. Like it's not always only on the offensive line. Rico Dowdle's slightly below average on yards after contact, but league average in yards before contact, meaning the offensive line is doing just enough to be league average. This is another thing I saw from Matthew Betts on Twitter. These are just his snap share and touch counts. His touches have increased every week. His snap share has slowly increased, but he's still hovering around that 50% mark. This was an interesting quote from Mike McCarthy. I don't really know what it means, but I think it's a compliment. Rico Dowdle's a bowling ball full of butcher knives. That's his running style. And then when he was asked of Ezekiel Elliott, he was like, yeah, he's not getting enough work to show what he's done, but we love Zeke. Yeah, they're pretty high on Rico Dowdle. These are some of his trades. So Dowdle for Richardson, definitely. Dowdle, Amon-Ra, Dontavian Wicks for DJ Moore, Jahmyr Gibbs. This one I actually take the DJ Moore side. It's just you're getting Gibbs, who's like should be Gibbs and Amon-Ra are kind of a wash, but then you're getting DJ Moore for Rico and Dontavian, which to me is like a nice upgrade. But Rico for Jake Ferguson. This is if you need a tight end. Jake's really good if you need a running back. I'd say Jake Ferguson's a better tight end than Rico at his position, if that makes sense. And then DJ Moore and Rico for Marvin Harrison. I like that. I'm just high on DJ Moore rest of the season personally, just based on how he's looked. Dowdle for Calvin Ridley, easy. Dowdle for Tank Dell, easy Dowdle. Dowdle for Antonio Gibson and Rachaad White. I mean, you guys know what I think about Rachaad White. So this is essentially Gibson for Dowdle. Dowdle wins that. Dowdle for Mark Andrews. Dowdle wins. This one I did say, if you're getting Kenneth Walker in any deal that includes Dowdle and whoever the fuck else, I'm taking Kenneth Walker. First wide receiver on my list on this trade list is going to be Chris Godwin. So Chris Godwin, really easy, bro. We don't need to spend too much time on this. He had a hot start to start the season. Had the 3 touchdowns in the first 3 weeks. 18 fantasy points, 21 fantasy points, 14. Then has a couple of down weeks in weeks 4 and 5. Doesn't get into the end zone, unfortunately. They had a couple tough matchups where they did lose both games. But looking ahead, you can pretty much pencil him in for 8 targets a game. That's why we love Godwin. He does have a tough schedule the next 5 weeks where they play some like quality opponents, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to be able to produce. It just means they're gonna have to be in these games. They're gonna have to throw the ball. They won't be able to just rely on the run. So I do think that kind of benefits Godwin as like that number 2 option. The offense as a whole is just very good. I didn't even finish that, but it's a very productive, very good offense. Canales is doing a great job over there in Tampa Bay. They are 5th in PFF passing offensive grade. So they're a very good pass offense. And as I mentioned, he had that strong start. Let's look at some of these trades. Godwin for Tyreek. This is just, in my opinion, Godwin kind of. I take Godwin this trade because you're going to get like guaranteed solid production the next couple weeks, and then when Tua returns, Tyreek Hill is probably going to be better than Godwin. But this all depends on what your record is. So if you need wins now, you might have to sacrifice that trade. I think Tyreek Hill will be better than Godwin, but Godwin and Kareem Hunt for Brian Thompson Pollard. I take the Godwin side because I do think Godwin's going to be a little bit more trustworthy than Brian Thompson. I love Brian Thompson. I just think Godwin's a little more trustworthy. And then Kareem Hunt and Tony Pollard might be a wash, in my opinion, which is fucking crazy to say, dude. Kareem Hunt was literally working at Safeway a week ago, dude. I saw him at Safeway bagging my shit. Chris Godwin for Brian Thomas and Javonte Williams. Again, Chris Godwin. Just because I'm so low on Javonte Williams, I don't think you're really having to give up much to upgrade from Brian Thomas to Godwin there. Godwin and Mahomes for Hurts and Puka. I take the Puka side here if you're like winning and you don't need wins this week. Godwin for Nico and Rashid Shaheed. Same kind of thing. If you're the Nico owner, he just goes on IR. You can't really afford to keep him. I understand wanting to trade him for Chris Godwin. Makes sense. Godwin and Jerome Ford for Tyreek Hill. Same idea. I think you're giving up a little too much to get Tyreek, though. So that's why I take I take the side that gets Godwin. Godwin and Tank Bigsby for CeeDee Lamb. I take the Lamb side. I mean, CeeDee Lamb should be so good moving forward, as the trade calc also showed us. Godwin and Pollard for Mason and DeVon Achane. I take the Pollard and Godwin side. I'm just a little worried about DeVon Achane until Tua comes back. And even when Tua comes back, I don't know. I don't know how Tua is going to look. I don't know how the offense is going to look. I don't know what their record is going to be. They have like Jalen Wright, who they might want to give him a little bit more work. That's why I lean that side. Last player on the list, holy fuck, my mouth is dry as shit, is going to be Jaylen Waddle. Jaylen Waddle, not much to say about him, bro. He was a second, third round pick in drafts. Tua goes down. He's obviously been very useless for us. Even in week one, where he still had Tua and he actually had a decent game, only 5 targets, man. You don't like to see that. We did like the yards per catch and the yards per target. That was nice, but yeah, man. Like basically, if you're 4-1 or 5-0, you want to be targeting Dolphins players in general. Tua or Waddle just happens to be the cheapest. Like I tried to sell this man for a bag of kettle cooked jalapeno chips, bro, and the guy said no. But obviously now, if I try it again, I might be able to get 2 bags of jalapeno kettle cooked chips because Tua is going to be back soon, bro. And I know, like the closer we get to Tua returning, the more expensive these players are going to be. So you kind of have to make a move now. I will say, dude, something very important I highlighted here. Dolphins players can be bought for pennies if the owners are like down horrendous. If they're 1-4 or 2-3 or 0-5, you can probably get Dolphins players for pennies, bro, because they can't wait for Tua. They can't wait till week 8. So I'd make a move on Dolphins players. Tua or Jaylen Waddle is just somebody that I like. Here are some trades that I've seen. We'll try to filter out the ones that are like blowout trades, but Wilson, Zach Moss, Jaylen Waddle for Najee and Tank Dell. For me, Tank Dell and Waddle, like I'll take Waddle over Tank Dell alone, right? And in return, you're upgrading from Zach Moss, or I'm sorry, from Najee to Zach Moss. Like I'll take this side for sure. I'm just not high on Tank Dell just because of how he looked. Because Nico will be back at some point, right? Waddle and ETN for Jaden Daniels and Jonathan Brooks. Again, if you're deep at quarterback, you can make this trade. You might be pretty sad if Jonathan Brooks comes back and ends up being like a workhorse back. But I don't know if that's the case with Chuba looking so good. Juju Smith and Jaylen Waddle for Deebo Samuel. If you're 5-0, I might lean the Jaylen Waddle side, especially if Juju's for real. I don't know if he's going to be for real, though. I can imagine that next game it's like Justin Watson who gets the touchdown, right? So I'm not too sure. Jaylen Waddle for JMO. Again, if you're 5-0, I take the Jaylen Waddle side. Just a little bit more upside. Saquon and Jaylen Waddle for Tyreek and Josh Jacobs. Because you're getting Saquon in this deal, you got to lean this side. He's just going to be so good the rest of the season. And Tyreek Hill, again, the Tua problem. Waddle for Dell, give me Waddle. Kareem Hunt and Waddle for Deebo, give me the Kareem Hunt side. You get a bona fide RB1 until Pacheco's back. Yeah, this one's a wash. James Conner for Jaylen Waddle and Keon Coleman. If you're really wide receiver needy, you can make this trade. Bigsby for Waddle twice. I'll take the Waddle side. We just don't know what Bigsby's going to be. I know he's looked good, but we just don't know how involved he's going to be, right? Like they still say Etienne's going to be their guy. So, damn, that was yeah. My mouth is super dry. Sorry, I wasn't as entertaining as past videos. But I hope you guys did get some value from this video. I'm super curious to hear what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know if you disagree with any of these trade targets. But I'll catch you guys in the next video, man. Peace.